What is the crack, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, men, women, children, everyone of all ages, everyone outside and in between all that? Do not adjust your screens. Do not change the lens. Do not put your phone in right. Do not turn it off and on again. Do not change aerials on your TV if that's what you have nowadays. You are watching the first episode of Talk of the League of the 2024-25 season for the Premier League. Yes, we are back in action. As you can see, we have a mighty lineup for you today. We have an absolute cracker of a first episode. Like, I'm so excited for this. No, we had the Euros over the summer there, but this is what we want in this for on this channel, Premier League. Right, before we get into this absolutely starstruck of a panel, let's talk about topics. So obviously you can see from the title, there's been a lot going on. Transfer window is probably the main thing, right? Without question of doubt, there's been a nice few names mentioned. We're also going to talk about the most recent scandal of, sadly, Enzo. It's been an absolute disaster, an absolute disaster. And then finally, we're going to top it off then with our top 10 strikers of the Premier League of all time. Now, this is the one that's going to kick up an absolute storm, and I'm going to come in guns blazing if Phil absolutely messes this up big time. But look, that is all ahead of us on this show. Let's get into the panel. Right, on my left, right, whichever side he's on now, whatever way you're seeing it, we have the man with the chain, the man with the glasses, the man who loves a good rate and dance on TikTok. It is none other than my Chelsea partner in crime. It is Dubes. Why is the crack, Dubes?
Yes, mate. How are you guys? How are we all doing today? Excited for this show, man. It's been a while. I mean, I've only been on this show once, but it's been a while. It's been a while. Excited for this. Been waiting for this, man.
Yes.
We need our club football back, bro. It's been European. Go on.
We can finally announce that you are now a co-host of this show now. So yeah. So that is a big up for you.
Yeah,
so
it means a lot, man. Means a lot. I'm just excited. Season's coming back, content's coming out. Everyone's gonna be making content. But my season, I'm ready, bro. I'm ready for this.
Delighted to hear it. Right. Next up is not other than another London rival, scum, as I'd like to say. Obviously, given that me and James are Chelsea.
Yeah, you're being polite. You're being polite.
I am being polite. I really am being polite. But look, he does deserve an introduction. He is an absolute cheeky little devil at the best of times. So he is on this episode, as you see throughout all last season and a few seasons before there. It is the Gunner himself, William Bryant. William, what is the crack, man?
Nothing too much. How you get on yourselves? I'm absolutely buzzing, to be honest. Can't wait for the actual real football to start just getting back up and way. Can't wait to see teams that can actually play football rather than this international dross that's been on recently. Bar Spain, they're entertaining to watch, but everyone else has been shite. Just, bring back club football. There is nothing like it.
Do you think this is going to be your season?
I say it every year. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it
be? Absolutely hopeless devotion. I love it. Right, next up we have in the look. He's been an absolute regular on the show throughout past seasons as well. Absolute top ball knowledge and fairness. Like, what else do you say about this man? He also plays ball with Jude Bellingham's father. It is a great connection to have. It is none other than Stu. Stu, what is the story, man?
Yeah, good. Heavily into pre-season at the minute, which is good. I was going to get the guns out properly, but now you got your chicken wings out. I thought I better just wrap mine up. I know.
The best now, essentially, it's icon on this show now. So.
I know. I was thinking about it. I thought I might go cropped, true vest, but I thought I better not. I don't want to come second into heaven. So yeah, but all good, mate. All good. Yeah, we're heavily back into pre-season now. I got my Zimmer frame out last weekend for our first pre-season friendly. Fuck me, did it? I really felt it. We've had 6 weeks off, and I really felt it. It's 90 minutes under my legs at my age. It's not good, but apart from that, it's all good. Looking forward to the season, obviously, and looking forward to the show and the banter, pal, as always.
Happy days. Look, always them first training back. It's always going to be a killer. But moving on, last but not least, and probably the star of the show now, and the main man who's going to end this show with his topic, of top 10 strikers in Premier League is none other than the man that tore up United in the 06-07 season. Is none other than Mr. Phil Marsh. Phil, what is the story, man? How you getting on?
Yeah, good. Thanks, guys. Good to be on. Looking forward to the season to start back. Obviously, the Euros, didn't quite pan out for England that we was all hoping. So yeah, just looking forward to getting some proper football back in and just enjoying a bit of a break. I'm obviously, I work in a school for those who don't know, so currently off now for a few weeks. So looking forward to a nice break, play a bit of golf, watch a bit of football. All good, mate. Yeah.
School, golf, United in that order, is it, Phil?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. At the moment,
Happy days.
To see how the season starts. I'm quietly confident with obviously the business that's been done so far, and I was in at Carrington a couple of weeks ago, speaking to some of the coaching staff and obviously some of the people there. They're obviously very optimistic with what's going on in the background, and hopefully we can start making steady progress. I think this year is going to be a big sort of indicator on sort of where we're actually at.
Happy days. And look, what a great way to start off the show with said transfer rumors. Now, the way this is going to work with these transfer rumors, I'm going to go through each and every single one of you, starting with Dubes and ending up with Phil, with your respective clubs on transfer rumors, signings that happened so far. I'm going to start off with the best club going, obviously. So I'm going to come to Dubes first, and let's just have it. We've done well so far. In my opinion, we've done well so far. But let's hear it from the man with the shades first.
We've done all right. I mean, listen, we just signed that left back. We sent him out to Strasbourg. I mean, listen, since the owners have come in, it's been the same every window. They're signing young players. They see something in these kids. They see like a project, which a lot of the Chelsea fans aren't on board with, which I hear it. Me personally, myself, I'm only just getting to grips with it because it's like, end of the day, they're not signing many like players that we've heard of that we know can actually come in and do a job in this team. We signed Drewsbury Hall, which, again, in my opinion, really Drewsbury Hall, but when you actually think about it, he's worked under Maresca before. The season he had in the Championship with Leicester, like, it's just depth in that midfield, especially we don't know what's going to happen with Enzo Fernandez now. We don't know what's going to happen there.
We might need that midfield solid, like, just in case.
And it's Tosin Adebayo, I think, was on a free agent. I think that's a class signing. And you can see, I don't know if you've been watching like the training videos on YouTube from Chelsea, he just seems like a leader. He seems like sure of himself. He's a big guy. He's 26 as well, so he's not exactly like a young kid that we've just gone and signed. He's got a bit of experience under his belt. He's been at Fulham. So listen, it's looking all right. And then if some of the players that we are interested in do transpire, I mean, I heard a thing about Oscar Bob the other day, which kind of reminds me of the Cole Palmer signing, because there's a Joe Shields recommendation. And listen, let's not forget, for Chelsea fans watching this, the amount of players we've had out that are going to come back, Fofana and Nkunku, Lavia, all these players are coming back. Like, listen, I'm excited. More so excited than when we started last season.
Yeah, no, I think we're going to be a force to reckon with this year. Like, especially with Nkunku back. Like, even though he had so much injury past season, the time he did get on the field, he did tear it up. Gusto, Fofana, like you said, a few of the things this transfer window, I'm absolutely sickened about. And there's one man we've been chatting back and forth about this. There's one signing that I'm sick we're not going all guns blazing for, considering the Euros. Iñaki Williams, man, what a name to be linked with, especially after the Euros.
You mean Nico
absolutely Williams? Sorry, yeah, Nico Williams.
Yeah.
Sorry, absolutely explosive pace, unbelievable, absolutely sensational baller. Like, only for his wages, I would jump at him all day, every day. So this begs the question: what is the one signing that you would love to have this transfer window?
You're asking me. See, questions like this are interesting. I mean, I'm trying to think what we need, because I feel like defense we're kind of sorted. We've got enough there. We're definitely an attacker that we kind of need. Yeah, I'd say Iñaki Williams is up there. Me personally, a lot of people aren't going to go for this. I would have taken Chiesa, considering Juventus have priced him at 25 mil. I know his injury record isn't great, but years ago, I just remember watching Chiesa. I wanted him for Chelsea so badly. But yeah, Nico Williams is definitely one of them. United's best signing of the summer with
Oh, mother of God. Yeah, no, look, I think that wages of 300 grand a week is absolutely mental. Yeah, he's a good bowler, but that is a big hit each week for Chelsea, all things considered. But yeah, look, it's hard to know, but I think these young signings are just going to be sensational for Chelsea this season, especially with players coming back from injury as well. But look, we are going to move on to the London rivals with William Chile absolutely raring to go again. So he is. But yeah, no, transfer window for Arsenal. What do you need to improve anywhere? Striker maybe?
Look, I'd say the main thing with ours is just kind of increase the quality in terms of the squad depth, kind of increase some of our bench players to get better quality so that they can get on and do a job to try and get us further. Look, we had the best, stats-wise, we were the best team in the league last year. Differentials happen and City end up winning it on the final day. Fair enough, they win it, they're the best team. We just need a couple more squad players that in those vital moments can come on and just win us those few extra points. So, like Calafiori, I'm happy enough with it. Again, a solid left back means we don't have to play Zinchenko there, who can get done defensively and come on. So that will help make the squad better. I'd like another attacker, be that a striker or be that a winger. I'd probably nearly prefer a goal-scoring winger as Saka replacement so that he doesn't have to play every single minute of every single game. And then it's just kind of like 1-6 or 1-8, and I'm happy. Like it's not one of those major transfer signings that I'm looking to go out for. It's more like when we signed Trossard and Jorginho, just these good squad players that help bring up the quality of the squad.
To absolute just team build. Yeah, no, I understand that. Like he have been solid last year. A few mistakes, a few slip ups. It was a season for a taking. Like you do have to admit that yourselves. They have been really good. In fairness, City were just, do you know what I mean? They always take it in the second half of the season anyway. In recent times, but look, it is what it is. But there's no doubt Arsenal are definitely contenders for next season as well. Like, but yeah, no, look, I think striker wise, goal scoring wise, yeah, I understand where you're coming from with Saka, but like, is there anyone on the transfer market that like you'd love to see Arsenal jump for, guns blazing for, need this player without a shadow of a doubt?
That's the thing. Like, I can't necessarily, all the names that are being linked and everything, there isn't one standout player that you say go and get that player. You know what I mean? Like, maybe if we say with a wild thing, go for, say, a Jamal Musiala. You know what I mean? Go and bring him in. I know that sounds wild, but you never know. Something stupid like that. But that's the type of quality of player that, yeah, I'd jump for in that 8 position and put Declan Rice back in the 6, although that's probably not his best position for Arsenal at the moment.
Yeah, here's a good comment now saying Watkins. Watkins, I think, would be an absolute sensational suit for Arsenal, considering Jesus was kind of lacking. Havertz is not a natural striker.
You see, Watkins' best game, though, is kind of running in behind and getting played in behind, whereas when you're playing teams like us, where odds are going to be facing a low block a lot more times, so he won't get as much of his best chances.
True, but he did have a sensational season, and there's no doubt that he'd be able to adapt to the Arsenal squad. Like,
he'd still be a brilliant option, all right, but it's different profiles. It's finding the right ones.
That's it. Look, I'll move on to the Stu next. Stu, United this season, United last season, I should say, a bit underwhelming, all things considered, with Eric Ten Hag at the wheel, as they would say. It's his gesturing already. It's been stinky. I think your greatest achievement was getting Europa taken away from us. Was probably the highlight for you, let alone the FA.
Don't remind me.
Let's talk about transfers. Transfers is what we want. Which your few signings that you've already bagged and the rumours that are coming through, what's your big expectations for United this season?
Expectation-wise, actually, to be fair, it depends which which system he wants to play. And that will be determined probably over the next 2 to 3 weeks with our further signings. So if you go for De Ligt, we've got Yoro in, and we've obviously got Martinez. Potentially Lindelof or Maguire will move and make way for De Ligt. So you've got potentially 4 good centre halves there. So how does he play? Does he play with a 3, 2 wing backs, 3 in the middle, 2 up top? Because you've got to factor in Zirkzee as well. So it's quite an interesting conundrum he's got. And it will also determine whether or not he purchases somebody like Xavi Simons to play as a 10, or he buys Akate just as we've been linked with him, to play as a 6. But Phil, I'll tell you, Akate is not brilliant as a ball player. He's excellent at breaking up the play, but he's not great as a ball player. Well, if you play 3 at the back, you could then kind of, when we're moving our offensive side of it, I guess you could use Yoro to run the ball, De Ligt to run the ball, drop Akate in. So actually our terms of play and the way that we will play our style of play will be determined, I think, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. If we don't get the types of player profile he's looking for, we may well revert back to his standard kind of system. So I think, with the 3 up front. So I think that will be quite interesting to see what we do in terms of acquisition in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I think that'll change the way we approach the season. In terms of last season, you're absolutely right. We weren't even up and down. We were mediocre at best. But taking Europa away from you guys was sweet. So we effectively finished 6th. That's what we're saying in the United camp. We finished 6th, because that's where we got Europa League. But we had a very strong last 6 weeks, actually. Now, we don't know as fans. We don't know how much Jason Wilcox had in terms of his, style of play, talking to Ten Hag about style of play. We don't know if Ashworth was talking to the gaffer about what he wants to do at that particular time. What we did, we showed a different style of playing and a different way of playing in bigger games. So, I mean, City in the FA Cup final, we nullified Rodri, we nullified De Bruyne. And those are the key elements of taking City apart. So, so am I excited about any of the signings? People are talking about Yoro being this generational talent, and me and Phil are old school, so we've been there, we've seen it before. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Yoro will be interesting. He's got Rio Ferdinand traits, as we can all see. De Ligt will be a more solid type defender alongside Martinez. Those 3 together actually will be quite a strong footing for us. And if you go for somebody like Xavi Simons, who I don't think he's got the bulk and the brawn for the Premier League just yet. And he's not really going to upset Bruno Fernandez stays. So my question marks over Zirkzee, really. It feels a bit more, better place to talk about Zirkzee. Look, I've seen him. I could see where we would play him. He's quite, tall. He's quite strong. He's quite menacing. He's got a really good touch from what I've seen. And you can play him through the middle. You can play him out wide. So that'll be quite interesting. The player I wanted him, by the way, Evan, before I shut up, went to Bayern Munich, and Phil will know this, and that was Polina. Because I think Polina would have been the perfect foil for Mainu. And then you could have...
I see it. I actually see it.
Done something with Bruno differently then.
I thought you were going to say Elise to replace Anthony.
Yeah, well, I think Ahmed's got more chance of playing than Anthony this season, but Elise... I
have more chance of playing over Anthony this season.
Yeah, Elise got his merits, don't get me wrong, but clearly English clubs weren't in for him to a big extent for him to go to Bayern. I think he would have stayed in the Premier League. So something quite interesting on that. But that's where I'm down with R2.
Before I come to Stu, I touch on the striker situation with Stu. But before I move off you there, or with Phil, sorry, before I move off you, Stu, do you think squad depth is going to be an issue for United?
Well, yes and no, and I'm a bit hesitant because we've got some exceptional youth talent coming through, and if you follow your youth through your clubs, and you've seen our under 18s, you've seen our not so much our 23s, but our 18s in particular, you'll know the depth and talent that we've got coming through. Harry Amas, will play probably Carabao Cup this year at left back. Real squat, good player, drives with the ball powerfully. Collie, you've already probably heard about. Phil, you might be able to remind me of the young chap that plays alongside him with the dreads. I can't remember his name. Someone like a Day or a D or something like that. Good, solid player. We got Joe Hugel. Doesn't look like a footballer, but knows where the back of the net is. We've got Jonathan Wheatley. I think Hugel's a better finisher than Wheatley, but Wheatley's a better all-round player. So I've listed about 5 players there that could come into the squad if you've got, and you go out and you buy and you keep the experience and around. So if you've got a good experienced 18 players, you can make the rest up with good solid youth, and I think that's what we've got at the moment. So but I'd be interested in Phil's take on that.
Yeah, look, Phil, moving on to yourself, right? I want to put you in a scenario with this one, right? You're Highland, right? Coming off the end of last season, you've touched form a bit. You've scored a few goals, not too bad. Transfer window, Euros come around, transfer window comes around, and you hear United are linked with Xerxes. All of a sudden, Xerxes gets signed. Everyone was talking about him. I've seen a lot of chat on Twitter about him. Like Stu was only touched on there, his touch, his ball knowledge, his ability to strike, and all that kind of crack. If you're Highland, how are you feeling knowing that this talent is coming up through and United have went out of their way to get this striker? Like, how would that make you feel, or how do you think that would make Highland feel? Would that knock his confidence for next season, or drive him on to try hold that striker position?
Yeah, I think from a personal point of view, if I was Highland, obviously, me being the way I was, putting myself in his shoes, that would sort of, make me want to prove a point and sort of show everyone that, I should be still, the first choice centre forward. Now, that can go one of 2 ways. Players can either spit the dummy out and feel sorry for themselves when another player comes in, or they can grit the teeth, knuckle down, and sort of prove to the manager, that they deserve to be a player that's starting every week. What I will say in terms of Highland, and I was banging this drum a lot last season, I think we definitely needed another centre forward to sort of come in and just take a little bit of pressure off him. I think he's so young, to come in and Manchester United. It's a massive pressure, and I think at times he was under a lot of pressure. Obviously, he went through a spell where he wasn't scoring goals, and obviously the Manchester United centre forward is always in the spotlight. I think now he's got somebody who can maybe take a little bit of the heat off him, who he can maybe learn from. I think obviously he's still raw and he's got a lot of improvement still in him. And as you say, Xerxes is somebody who's got a good touch, good movement. He's not probably a natural number 9, but I think he's the most likely central player that we're going to play in that position, other than possibly Bruno as a false 9. So I think it'll work well that we've now got Ruud van Nistelrooy, who's come into the club, who's obviously a elite central forward who can sort of show him and sort of give him some of that knowledge. But now he's also got another strike partner he can maybe build a relationship with in training, and they can sort of learn off each other, and hopefully, it can be the start of a good partnership. But as I say, I think the main point that I wanted to make was we've now got an option rather than having to rely on Highland every single game as that central player. Or if he got injured, we've now got somebody else that can play in that position, which I think we lacked massively last season. And as I say, for somebody so young, it's good that he can now have somebody else who he can work with and look up to.
Yeah, look, Keane took the words out. Well, took my next question really that I was going to ask. Phil, do you think Rule will be able to get that extra 10% out of our strikers this season? Like, I think it's given the formidable striker that he was back in his time and back in his era, he was a force to be reckoned with, and I can't see why he can't pass that on to United strikers and to give them, like Keane's after putting that extra 10% on. I don't know if there's any clips or anything gone out like that of Ruud in action, of coaching or teaching at the United grounds with the strikers. But is it a possibility that Ruud could end up passing the ball knowledge on and giving United that extra bit to not win the league. I won't go completely mad here, but like to get top two, we'll say.
Yeah, no, I think Ruud coming into the club's a massive boost for everybody. I think, you know, what he did at the club as a player, and now coming in as a coach and an assistant, I think it'd be massive for the attacking players. One thing that Ruud van Nistelrooy was absolutely amazing at was scoring goals in the box. You know, a poacher would be able to, you know, score goals that other players wouldn't even be able to dream of. So for me, I think now he's coming into the club, I think the style of play that a lot of modern day footballers play now is where, you know, they like to cut inside and try and play the perfect football. I think we will start seeing a lot more crosses coming into the box because Ruud was absolutely marvellous at just peeling off and obviously getting them balls whipped in from the likes of Beckham and Giggs and people like that back in the day. And that little bit of movement that he used to have was you know, absolutely priceless. I think that kind of thing now with somebody like Højlund, who to be fair to him does have quite good movement and does put himself in decent positions. Unfortunately, a lot of the time the ball doesn't come in and players are chopping back and trying to come inside. And obviously, as a striker, when you make that initial first run and the ball doesn't come in, you've then got to reset and then try and go again. And as I say, when it doesn't come in 2 or 3 times, it can get frustrating. And I have seen that with him over the last you know, season. So I think now that Ruud's in, he's definitely going to you know, work with the strikers, work with the wingers, and try and just maybe mix the play up. And, you know, don't be too predictable. Don't always come inside, and maybe sometimes you don't even need to beat the man. Just get a touch out your feet, put balls into areas, and get players attacking the spaces, and make defenders defend like they used to after.
Yeah, look, I think with all this Ruud talk now, I wonder, is this a hint for the last talk, if he's going to be in your top 10 strikers of all time Premier League greats? But yeah, look, well, just the same question the same question I asked the lad.
That, Evan, quickly. And Phil will know this more than anyone. One of the things you can't teach a striker is timing. That's the worst part. That's most strikers will tell you, Andy Cole, Dwight York, Ruud, Phil himself, timing's all with your eyes. And that's the one thing you can't teach a striker. And one of the things that Ruud was brilliant at was focusing himself in and around the penalty area. That's where he used to feed mostly before he'd entertain the 6-yard box, because standing and loitering in that area allows you the movements. And it's all about, unfortunately, eyes. And that's the one little element you can't teach a striker. Phil would work on instinct, and it's one thing you can't teach in it, Phil, unfortunately, is instinct inside that box and using your eyes for time. And it's very, very difficult. Very difficult.
I think you see it with a lot of the best strikers. You know, somebody like a Haaland, or, you know, sometimes you don't even need to move. It's just about putting yourself in a position where the ball might break or fall, and then, you know, having the ability to finish. And I think all the top strikers that you watch have that instinct and have that sort of know-how, how to just put themselves in a good position that, you know, even if it doesn't, sometimes, you know, that chance when it does eventually fall to you, you're there and you can put it away.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why a lot of the top strikers, Evan, you'll always see them offside. You'll always see them in an offside position a lot of the time, because they're anticipating the defender to pop back in. And that's where the striker has it. That's where he's got the clinical edge.
If that's the case, then if Werner is not in the top 10 of Phil's list, I'll be shocked. If offside was the key to
you know, one of the most famous quotes you'll ever hear about a striker was about Filippo Inzaghi. Fergie said he was born offside, and he used to stand offside all the time, and then the defenders were that worried about him that he'd put back on side and it'd be in goal, just like that. But Højlund will benefit hugely from Van Nistelrooy, because I'm sure Phil's got him as number 1.
Oh, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and find out. But look,
you mentioned Timo Werner. You mentioned Timo Werner. I'd rather have him than Højlund any day. I'd rather, at least he does something. He may not score goals. At least he does.
Do you know what? I actually would.
He did in his first season. At least he does stuff for the team.
I mean, Højlund bagged, what was it, 16 goals, Phil, in all competitions. Yeah. The first goal from a team that was cross shy, really. You know, and I think Phil's right. I think and we may even go with 2 up top. We may even play Zirkzee and Hoyland, which will then they'll have to change the way they service off front too. Could be quite interesting.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I did rate Werner. A lot of people hated on him. All right, back with Chelsea, but look, that's just another story. But Phil, just before we move off the topic, I just want to get, if money was no option, who was the player you would gun for, or that you would want United to gun for, this transfer window, or what position on the squad would you like to improve the most?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I would have actually said another number 9 in terms of like a proper old school number 9. But I think Will touched on it before. There's not really anybody out there who's sort of jumping off the paper at me to sort of say that's where we'll come in and sort of transform, you know, where we're at the moment, because the game's sort of changed so much. You know, a lot of these inverted strikers and wingers now. There's not really anybody in that number 9 position at the moment who I would be, you know, really sort of gunning for. I think Osimhen was sort of an option maybe a couple of seasons ago. I know he's sort of, you know, dipped a little bit in the last season or two. To be fair, I think obviously the signings that we have made, I think Euro was a really good signing, probably paid a little bit more than we should have done in the end. But, you know, that central defence position was always going to be a big one with Varane moving on, and obviously now Martinez coming back into fitness. So, yeah, there's not really anyone who's sort of, you know, jumping off the screen at me at the moment in terms of who I would bring in. I think, you know, we are strengthening the squad depth, which was massive. I think last year we found out with the amount of injuries that we had that we was you know, miles off it in terms of squad depth, and that's why I think the performances were so up and down. But yeah, just have to wait and see. And as I say, a couple more signings in the transfer market and strengthen the squad, and I think we'll be, you know, not far away. And I think obviously another trophy and a top 4 finish would be a good improvement on obviously last season.
Absolutely. Look, we still have, there's a heap of time in the transfer window left. Obviously deadline day, we might get an absolute shocking signing. There's like definitely going to be a heap of more names linked with all these clubs, Chelsea, Arsenal, United, etc., inside and outside the Premier League players. Like, but look, unfortunately, we do have to move on to some serious topics. On this show, we do like to have the crack. Like I always say to everyone that comes on, we're just lads chatting down the pub, chatting shit, having the crack. But at the end of the day, serious topics do need to come up. And this is a topic that's actually recently emerging. And unfortunately, there's scandals throughout every season of the Premier League, going all the way back. What I'm on about now, as you see from the title, is Enzo Fernandez. And appalling scenes that emerged there online on Twitter, and I'm sure they've been sent into WhatsApp groups and all that kind of crack. First off, obviously we do not condone, even though we're talking about, we do not condone any racial abuse or any racial comments towards any other. Football at the end of the day is for everyone, so it is. But we do want to talk about it, obviously, because there's consequences going to have to come from this. Given that the Copa is over, Copa America is over, he has to come back to the club. Chelsea players have already made a statement with unfollowing him on Instagram. But dude, I'm going to come to you first, given the Chelsea man, Chelsea team, Chelsea players. What do you make of all this yourself? Like,
I mean, first of all, he wasn't the only one singing it. Like, obviously, we can't see who exactly was singing it, but he wasn't the only one. He was just stupid enough to live stream it and not turn it off when it got to that point. But it's just stuff like that. Like, do you not think? I mean, fair enough, you just won the tournament, but do you not think like you're in a team of, like, let's be honest, a Chelsea team, predominantly black team and French black team as well, with like Gusto and Kunku, Disasi, Badashile. There's plenty. Like, do you not think of the effect that's going to have on the team? You're going to go back. What are you going to say to these when they see you sung this song? What are you going to say to them? Like, oh, they told me to sing it. Like, so it's just stupidness. It's immaturity, and it's just, and people are going to defend it by saying, like, people are going to defend the Argentina team by saying, oh, it's just their culture. But I'm not sure. Like, listen, I'm young. I'm only 20. Like, I'm sure decades ago, like women got accused of witchcraft. They used to get obviously killed for that. Was that right? That was part of the culture.
Yeah.
Like,
it's madness, like.
it's just wrong. And like, obviously, me speaking obviously as a half black person, like, it's just sad that 2024 racism still happens in this world. And for me, it's getting worse because, yeah, it's just because listen, we all hoping. Listen, 3 years ago in the last Euros, the second Saka, Sancho, Rashford missed them penalties, bang, straight on Instagram, flooding the comments. Like, it's just sad, man.
That was
But
crazy.
listen,
That was crazy. That was wild.
yeah. But with the Enzo situation, it's just silliness. Like, and yes, listen, he's come out and he's apologized, but what's the apology? The club to see how they handle this now, because
there is going to be tension in the camp. Like, there 100%. There's no doubt about it. Like, because I know if it was myself in the lads' shoes, the black French players, like, and having someone who just racially abused me come back to the club, like, you're not going to want to be friends with them. You're not going to want to play with them. If anything, you're going to want to punch the head off him, like. But like you said, it was stupid, so stupid in the first place. Shouldn't have been done it in the first place, but even more stupid to have the phone out, like. But like, it's going to cause turmoil, and at the end of the day, the club has to stand up and do something about it because they can't condone this. If anything, what kind of punishment would you set upon this now, if any punishment?
Do you know, it's such a hard question because it's like it'd be easy to just like, oh, he misses a couple of games, but then what? He's still amongst the squad, or it'd be the same with like fining. But then it's like, would selling him be too harsh? But then I think, well, one, you're not going to be able to sell him because the contract you've given him, the wages you've given him, no one's that money. You can't terminate his contract, too much money. So it's a hard question that when you actually really think about it, like, what would you do in regards to the situation? So I'm thinking, to be fair, I kind of feel for like Todd Bowley. I'm thinking, what do we do here? Like, what do we realistically do here? Because either way, there's going to be uproar.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Look, I'm going to mix it up. Stu, I'm going to come to you next. Like, given from you're not a Chelsea fan, like, but it is happening in the football world. It is, like, for me, a punishment has to come for it, regardless if it was in a Chelsea player or a United player or an Arsenal player or a Tottenham player. Punishment does have to come to this. Like, I remember when Kepa even caused the kind of war about being subbed off there. It must be 4 or 5 years ago now. And I was roaring, I was screaming for that man's head for throwing a strop and not being subbed off. Masari wanted them off. I wanted that man to rot in reserve. So you can only imagine the kind of punishment that needs to become for this. Like,
look, racism's one of the few things that absolutely baffles me, where people can't get along with people, and that people have to look at people indifferently. I just find it unbelievably pathetic, immature, and I don't even like talking about it because I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. I don't understand the concept of it. Look, people can not like each other for a variety of different reasons, but ultimately, what on earth has your skin color got to do with it, or where you were born in the world? We've got players on that coach. We've got Manchester United players on that coach, and I saw on Twitter, oh, don't worry, Martinez wasn't singing it and Garnacho wasn't singing it. Well, it's bollocks. You're guilty by association. Unless you're stopping it, you're physically getting the phone, stopping Fernandez acting like a complete tit. You're guilty by association because you're in there. Back in mine and Phil's day, that would never have happened. There'd have been a fist fight if something like that occurs. But you can't do that today because we're in this complete generation where I wouldn't know how to approach Doobs anymore. Wouldn't have a fucking clue because I don't know how he feels. I don't know his pronouns. I don't know this and I don't know that. He's a cool kid. I could call him Doobs, fella. How you doing, mate? And all that. I get that. But you don't know initially. And this lies the issue with society right across the board. I've got no problem with anybody exercising whatever right they want to exercise. Okay? As long as nobody throws it down my throat, and I'm being told I've got to do something, I've got no issues. You know, we should all get along, and it doesn't. It just, to me, it doesn't matter. So Fernandez, and actually, Dude's made a really, really, really good point about culture. Is culture an excuse? Not really, not anymore. It may have been an excuse back in the 60s and 70s. I grew up where racism was just normal. It was absolutely abysmal. You can go back in history and watch television programs which will teach you what racism's all about. It's horrible. It was just horrible. But it was a culture at that time. And then it just moved on and moved on and moved on. And people, you know, and everybody tried to, or should have, you know, should be in a position now where who gives a damn? You know, it doesn't matter to me whether Dubes is black, and I apologize. See, I don't even know how to.
Yeah.
Problem. I don't even know how to do.
No, you can say it. It's fine. Not like, listen, I've mentioned it. Yeah.
I've got no issue with that. I'm just talking to him like a
human. You almost got cancelled there, man. You almost got cancelled, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just
no, it's fine. No, it's fine. Honestly, yes, you
like
can
a human
address it.
being. I'm talking to him like a human being, as you would talk to your mate down the pub when you're having a pint. And if you've got to think about what you're doing, if you've got to think about what you're having to say, because you might upset somebody, it's very, very difficult. Going back to Chelsea, sorry, that's just my opinion on racism.
Yeah,
I hate
100%.
So going now to what Chelsea do, Chelsea got the biggest problem ever, and you know, everybody's spoken about this. When you give somebody a 7 or 8 year contract, 9-year contract at 200 grand a week, what are you going to do with him? You can't find him. Well, if you find him 2 weeks' wages, so what? It's an irrelevance. Find him 2 weeks' wages, who cares? It's an irrelevance. You've got to
That's
take
like
him
losing
out.
£10.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can you sell him?
Yeah.
No, because nobody's gonna pick it up. Can you terminate his contract? Absolutely no chance. Because his contract's probably worth about 100 million or whatever. So there's only one thing you can do with him. You can get him in, and you can tell him and his agent, you can fuck off for 12 months. Don't come anywhere near his club for 12 months. Go and do some rehabilitation for 12 months. Yes, we're going to have to pay you. You're going to have to pay him whatever, so it doesn't really matter. And then when you come back, you know, reintegrate yourself differently. We suspended Mason Greenwood for the right fucking reasons.
Yeah.
The right reasons, okay? And people don't like the way we've handled Greenwood. I think we've done the right thing by it. We kept him away from the club. Kept him away from harm's way, and you've got to do the same with Fernandez. He's an absolute idiot, but the problem is, and we all know this, so I'm going to tell you something you already know. He's 21, 22 years old, however old he is. Dude, you're 20 years old. You're 20 years old, right? You signed for Chelsea on an 8-year contract. You're going to walk away, thank you, all serious. You're going to get in the car and you're going to think, fuck me, I've just reached the end of the rainbow. Because they can't sack me. I'm not going to get done for gross misconduct. I'm £100 million better off. I can do what the fuck I like. And therein lies the issue. And therein lies the problem.
That's like one of the problems, like in just in football, like these large contracts, like the image, maturity, like so this immaturity, just like. And to be fair, you made a great point. You had forgotten about Mason Greenwood. That you made me think now. Why not? Why can't we just, like, if we have to just bin him off, why can't we? Because Mason Greenwood, obviously, we're still yet unsure about the actual result of that court case. But imagine like how big it was. Imagine the heat at the moment, like how much it was, like everyone assumed it was him, everyone thought it was him. And you just carried on playing with him. Imagine how that's going to look at a club like Man United, like globally. You're going to think, oh, we've kept her. I'm not going to say it, but you know, I'm going to say in the team.
You've got two major issues. You've got domestic violence, which is a huge issue, and you've got, you know, potential racism here, a huge issue. And if Chelsea don't that and make that example, you're fucked as a club. You really are. You really are.
100%. Trevor makes that point here in the comments, and he's saying if Chelsea don't make the example of Enzo, it will tell a lot. It will absolutely tell a lot. I think it like at the end of the day, if for me it is steps. Public apology, personal apology to each of the colour players on the Chelsea team, and not just the colour, but the white people of the Chelsea team then as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Because it's not only shaming himself and the coloured players, it's the whole team he's letting down at the end of the day, and the whole club he's letting down.
As much as I agree with that, as Steve was 100% right, sorry is just a word. It's just a word. You know,
that's true.
And you know, if I'm in there, and it's really hard for me because I don't experience it. I've never experienced it. I've never been on that side where I've experienced it, and it must be absolutely heartbreaking if somebody says something to you that is, you know, racist. It must be absolutely fucking heartbreaking. I would hate it. And I've never been on that side, so it's very difficult for me to do that. And I don't want anyone to explain what it is like, because I think that would piss me off and upset me even more. That's what I'm really struggling with. This racism upsets me so bad. Domestic abuse upsets me really, really bad. These are two subjects that should never. It just shouldn't happen in this world. You're not big and hard if you beat up a girl. If you're a man, you're absolute prick.
Yeah.
In this day and age,
you know, it's a tough one for me.
I could spill a glass of water and say sorry. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
You said sorry is just a word, like. But racism still goes on in this world. Like you guys would never. I mean, those of you follow me on TikTok, like obviously they've introduced like the filtered comments thing. Sometimes I get comments like, for instance, Evan, you saw the when I did for the first England game, like the first play rating video I did. Instantly, people being racist into it because yes, I gave Trent Trent was his name, a 9, and yeah, you could say it was a generous rating. But the first thing people go to race, because you're the same racism, and whether or not it's racism or not, the fact that race is like a topic. The fact that race has to be brought into it, like for what? Like, but yeah, man. Eventually, I had to turn my comments off because that was all I was getting. But
yeah, look, William, I'll come to William next on this because we did mention the whole Saka, at the last Euros, Saka being an Arsenal player. Like, William, how did you kind of react to all the fucking the hate and the racial slurs and comments aimed at a gunner? Like,
yeah, at the same time, it's a really difficult situation in terms of how you deal with it. I feel like we did try and deal with it best as we could as a team around them, and that was just show everyone how much love and support it is and how it should be the minority. Unfortunately, it's never going to get rid of it as much as, like, it's just going to happen, and it's terrible to say. But there are just going to be these pricks out there that are just going to go and bait it, which is way too far, which is just stupid in terms of baiting for race. And they just see it as funny and don't actually see it as a fucking what it is, and it's just being a prick. At the same time, it's annoying as well. You've got to look at it, and especially with this Enzo Fernandez situation, you can't help the culture, but it is highly happens in South American culture. They've tried and eradicate it in Brazil by increasing fines and everything, but that still hasn't changed anything. Because I mean, just compare these in South America. I mean, you have Luis Suarez, which was the most highly talked about situation with Patrice Evra. What happened? He gets a few match ban and nothing changes there. They have to just really look at how to approach it, and it just needs to be implemented in general. But it's just a human issue. That just is the rotten side in the human race. That is just, it'll go as far into football once you get these type of people in there that just aren't nice people, that just want to mock and take things too far constantly and don't see the issue with how far they can take them.
Yeah, look at that. You've all kind of hit the nail on the head there. Phil, I want to come to you next. You obviously playing on the big stage. Obviously, the years you've been there has been scandals at the club. How did, obviously without naming names or anything like that, how did the dressing room kind of address the situation with players involved with scandals that have been headlined in the newspapers around that time? How did the club handle it? How did the manager handle it? How did the dressing room just in general handle situations?
Yeah, I think obviously I can, think back to the Patrice Evra situation with Suarez, and obviously I think, at the time, it was sort of, something that maybe we hadn't experienced at United for quite a while in terms of that level of sort of, racial abuse towards a player. I think the only thing you can do really in that situation is try and just rally around the player, make him sort of feel, valued and the sort of, part of the family and part of the club. I think, for a lot of the players I played with, a lot of the players were black or mixed race, which, nowadays that, every club has players of different, cultures and religions. So I think you've just got to start making sure that, a lot of these players who are sort of naive and don't fully understand the club should now be more education and in that area. I think obviously we see, a lot of racial chants and sort of slurs and stuff like that, which in this day and age really, you're still trying to scratch your head and think, how is this kind of still happening and going on? But I think racism is one of them subjects that, it's never ever going to be completely eradicated. I think there's too many mindless people and idiots who don't want to educate themselves, who just want to, use it as an easy low blow, if you know what I mean. So I think the football side of things is always going to struggle with that element, and especially with the social media exposure that we've got nowadays. I think any little thing is going to get picked up and blown out of the water. So just looking back from my experiences when I was at the club, you've just got to try and rally around that particular player and make them feel loved, because it is a difficult situation. As I say, I've never experienced it myself personally because it tends to be the darker players and the black players that get these kind of abuse, and it's not right. It's disgraceful really to think that somebody can be belittled or for the color of the skin can be targeted and it's not on. So you just got to try and make it as comfortable a situation as you can for that person and player. And as I say, that's what we did at the club when I was there with the Patrice Evra case.
Yeah, no, that is. See, this is what I love about this, and having Phil on the channel. We get the inside first-hand encounter of what actually goes on in a top-tier club dressing room. Look, I think that a few of the comments have said it as well, and I think you've hit the nails on the head there as well. Education is a big part, and culture, and as long as there is mindless fools, absolute fools out there, unfortunately, it's going to be tough for football in general, and not even just football, just in life in general, to demolish racism. Because, like Phil, you said, people use it as a low blow, and it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But look, it is a big topic in world and in football in general, and unfortunately, it's going to continue to be with these mindless people out there. And we are going to cover it. We're not going to stay silent on it. Like,
can I just make point? The word education, like this is someone obviously who's finished school only a couple of years ago. Like even in like things, obviously Black History Month, you all know about in October. Like that's just a thing. Like when I was at school, obviously I went to a predominantly white school. I grew up in Watford, went to school in Berkhamsted. Like so obviously it's predominantly white. Black History Month is like a thing you get mentioned in 2 minutes in form time, or like maybe in an assembly for like 3 minutes, and then that's it. There's no like history behind it. There was no like what it means, and then even in history lessons, like you get taught about obviously like civil rights movement, slavery, and stuff like that. But that'd just be like one history lesson, and it'd just be like there was never like any. It'd only be like a semester or like a term. You talk about it, and then that's it, and people just forget about it. So it's like I feel like that's where this generation is going to grow up. Maybe not necessarily they're going to be like racist, but they're not going to like see like they're going to be a bit uneducated where they could say the wrong thing and they'll become racist. That's when people saying education. That's why it is, even though it may not make a difference, it's still important in that sense.
Yeah. Look, look on this channel, it is it is important to touch on the hard-hitting topics such as racism. Like, yes, I know we like to have the crack, we like to enjoy the football, we like to joke around, mess around, and all that. But at the end of the day, we do have to cover these hard-hitting stuff. But look, we are coming up the roughly last 10 minutes of this tonight's first big show back, and we're going to get in now to a more uplifting, ready. Actually, do you know what? This actually might bring the whole channel down because there's going to be war if Phil doesn't think this right for me. So Phil, the pressure is on you now. The last 10 minutes coming up.
There's only one answer. There's only one answer, mate.
What's that?
Big Rude. He's the only answer. he's got
I don't know. But you have to remember, there's 9 other spots as well to pick from.
Hey, Phil.
So anyway,
you could put Shevchenko in there for the crack.
Is what? Sorry, Stu?
You could put Shevchenko in there just for a token. You know, I mean, Chelsea have had nobody else, have they? Really? Let's be honest.
Yeah. To be fair, I've sort of covered all bases. Stu. Don't worry. I've got one from Chelsea and I've got at least one from Arsenal. So.
So you got the 2 comedy ones in then. I thought you would have.
You're a joker now. Phil, me or Stu, me and you are going to throw hands after this if you keep them comments up. But look, the last few minutes of the show, we're going to turn it to Phil there, and we're going to talk about. Well, I'm not going to talk. It's Phil's going to talk about the top 10 Premier League strikers of all time. This topic has been going on since since the Premier League even started. Before the Premier League even started even. This is a touchy subject for a lot of people, and a subject that has caused many of rows. So we're going to go from 10 to 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. The worst will say out of the bunch. So Phil, over to you, man.
Nicholas Jackson, number 1. What?
You threw a spanner in the works. Doing an order, like in terms of 10 to 1. I'd just written 10 names down. I wasn't going to do them in any particular order. I just had 10 names that I was happy with. So ranking them in terms of like 10 to 1, I might struggle with off the cuff here, but I'll go for it.
Well,
anyway.
if you want to just give 10 fire names out, we might have an old discussion on where they would go on the list.
Yeah. I think that'd probably be better. So what I'll do is I'll just name the players. I mean, we can name them individually, have a quick chat about that player, and then move on. Or I can just say the 10, and then you can rank them if you want it.
Do you want me to make a note?
Yeah. I think that's best.
To make a note.
Yeah. Make a note. So when I say my first player, you just make a note, and then we'll just have a discussion of where they would rank them.
All right.
Okay, so I'll start, and obviously this will be no surprise, I think, to Will. I think I'm going to start with Thierry Henry. I think Arsenal's obviously, best centre forward that they've ever had. I think in terms of Premier League, he's definitely in the conversation to be, in the top maybe 1, 2, 3. So for me, Henry, and when I was growing up, obviously Henry was sort of, in his prime and sort of terrorising defences. So he was somebody who I sort of looked at and thought, wow, if I can be half the player he is, I'd be happy. So I'll start with that one and say Thierry Henry.
Yeah, that's that. Well, I think that we all knew that was coming. Obviously, there's going to be the obvious choices in here. And Thierry Henry probably being the top of majority's people's list. Obviously, you're going to have a few outsiders kind of fighting battles, which is fair enough. But I think Henry is an obvious one, clearly. Yeah, so it is.
Yeah, okay. Number 2, I'm going to say Alan Shearer. Again, another centre forward, proper centre forward. My era when I was growing up, scored all type of goals. Didn't play in necessarily the biggest teams, but always scored goals and was somebody who I, again looked up to in terms of what he offered to the team. A proper striker who scored every type of goal. His hold-up play was good. Took penalties, free kicks, scored headers, volleys, everything. So I think again, he's ready. Yeah, he's definitely going to be in there for me. So Alan Shearer as option number 2.
Yeah.
I'll move straight on.
Look,
go on. Sorry.
You can say how different Shearer's career would have been if he just went to United. Imagine.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think he probably looks back at that decision and maybe has, questions about what if, and obviously if he had gone to United at that time. But again, I think, having the career that he did at the clubs that he was, passionate about in terms of, Newcastle especially, and Southampton in his earlier days in Blackburn, I don't think he'll probably look back with too many regrets. I think his record speaks for itself in terms of the amount of goals he scored. So, yeah, probably just winning trophies was the only sort of downside really to Shearer in terms of the overall package. Number 3, I'm going to go Andy Cole. Again, I think Andy Cole is somebody again in my era when I was growing up. Scored all types of goals. Was very underrated, I think, in terms of what he offered and sort of the impact that he had, obviously coming from Newcastle after a fantastic season, and then coming into United and fitting straight into that treble winning season team and stuff like that. I think the partnership that he had with Dwight York was sensational, and obviously still people talk about that to this current date, because the actual relationship them two players have, we've never really seen before in terms of telepathic, knew where each other was, little overs, all little combinations that them two used to do was brilliant. And I think Andy Cole was definitely in there for the amount of goals and longevity that he had.
Yeah, no, 100%. I done my own list prior to this show, right? And I do have Andy Cole on it, all right. But I think he'd be shocked on where I do have him on the list. I will give you just a quick. He is 7th on my list.
Yeah. As I say, this is just in particular order. I'm just going to do mine.
Yeah, just name them, and then we can rank it. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Next one, the Chelsea boys will be happy with this one, I think. Didier Drogba.
Yes.
Drogba definitely gets in it for me. I just think, when you talk about a proper number 9 and a centre forward, I think Drogba's, what springs to mind for me. His strength and his ability to be able to bring balls down and link the play, and sort of some of the big goals that he scored in big games, the Champions League final. And obviously I remember going watching the FA Cup final when he scored the winner when I was at Wembley for United, obviously. But obviously a massive player for Chelsea over the years, and was always, scoring different types of goals again, as all the best strikers do. So I think he's definitely somebody who deserves to be in that list.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. An absolute aerial ace, the king of Stamford Bridge. Absolute sensation. Probably the definition of a big game player, without a shadow of a doubt, has to be in that. Anyone leaving him out is a disgrace.
People want to talk about Kai Havertz as a big game player. Kai Havertz.
Drogba is the definition of a big game player.
Drogba is.
Next one, Wayne Rooney. I think, to be fair, Wayne Rooney's an absolute shoo-in. To be breaking on the scene at such a young age, and obviously scoring that goal for Everton against Arsenal was incredible. Obviously, I played with Wayne at that age in terms of in the academy, and I knew, obviously, seeing him at that level, that he was going to be a sensational player. So to do what he's done in the game, I think obviously United's all-time top scorer, came to the club with a lot of pressure, and obviously being a Scouser coming into a club like Man United. He was definitely one of the best players I ever got the opportunity of playing with and watching, and obviously what he's done on the international scene as well speaks for itself. So I think the thing with Wayne as well is he's not just a centre forward. He can do pretty much everything. In his latter years, when he started dropping in and playing off the left, and he's such a good team player. He had the full package, and he's probably up there with the best of them for me, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Wayne is another one of them obvious players. He was in that golden Barclays Prem generation, so. Yeah, no, there's no one going to argue with Rooney being in a top, if not top 3 of the Premier League of all time.
Yeah. Stu will be happy with this one as well. Obviously, this one for me is, when I was at the club, getting a chance to work with him, and obviously now he's back at the club, Ruud van Nistelrooy, I think. watching him firsthand and being at the club at the time I was when he was sort of in his pomp and sort of scoring goals, he was incredible. I think the only downside for me in terms of when I compare Ruud with some of the others is he probably didn't stay at the club for long enough. But in them years that he was at the club, the impact that he had and sort of the amount of goals that he scored and obviously the way he just was as a person, and sort of had time for myself personally and other strikers at the club at the time, and would always give us advice and do training afterwards and do some shooting drills. He was such a good role model and person to sort of be around at that time. So Ruud for me would always be in my Premier League top 10 no matter what, because he for me he's just a breath of fresh air, and I loved watching him every single week.
Yeah, no, I think even such as if we're going to consider longevity, which I don't think we should, Ruud definitely is up there. I think 70. Am I right saying around 70 goals for Ruud?
Ruud, he was 100 and
more than 70.
I was right.
Yeah.
He was well over 100. He played about 160 games, didn't he, Phil? He scored about 130, something like that. His record was phenomenal. Yeah, in all competitions, his record was phenomenal. He's number one by nobody.
Just to touch on this comment here, is Cristiano Ronaldo going to make the top 10, or are you guys counting him as a wide player during his first into? I wouldn't count Ronaldo as
because his time at United, it was good, but to be in the top 10, like he made his name. I'd say, well, no, he made his name at United, but like to get to level he was at Real Madrid and then like Juventus kind of thing.
Yeah, I think for him, he's a winger in the Prem standards, we'll say.
Yeah, winger, yeah.
But go on, Phil, anyway.
Yeah. Obviously, I just wanted to reiterate that point. Obviously, Ronaldo, if we was classing him as a striker, then he definitely would have been in it. But there was players like Salah and people like who I maybe would have considered, but I don't really consider them as strikers. So, for me, Ronaldo's not in my top 10 because of that reason. So, just wanted to clear that up. Next one is Michael Owen. Even though he was, a Liverpool player when he started off, I think, again, during my childhood growing up, Michael Owen burst onto the scene and sort of, was another young player that I looked at and thought, wow, he's got all the attributes to be one of the best strikers in the world. I think his pace and his finishing in that, first couple of seasons when he sort of broke into the Liverpool side was incredible. And then obviously to, score the goal on the international scene against Argentina was, one of the most memorable goals. I think obviously injuries later in his latter stage of his career obviously hindered him maybe, having a bit more of a, longer run at it. But, when someone wins the Ballon d'Or and plays for Real Madrid as well, you consider them as a proper player. So I think Michael Owen definitely gets in just on base.
Am I being stupid, or is he the only English player to win a Ballon d'Or?
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, Bobby Charlton won it.
Okay.
But it was a European Player of the Footballer of the Year at the time. So then they merged the two.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, I'm not being the same.
I think on this list, Michael Owen gets a lot of hate. So he does. A lot of stink. But like you do have to rate it, even though the Ballon d'Or is not what it is today. The Ballon d'Or was actually, in my opinion, worth something back then. So what we are now number.
We're number 8.
Sorry,
Michael Owen gets in purely for his daughter for me, but yeah, that's a different story. We're number 8.
Number 8, okay. Number 8. Yeah, number 8. This might surprise a few people, but for me, again, an underrated player, Jermaine Defoe. I think for me in the Premier League era, I think when you look at the amount of goals that Jermaine Defoe scored.
Okay.
Yeah, Jermaine Defoe, I think, for his size and to be able to play in the Premier League for such a long time at, a few different clubs, scored the amount of goals that he scored. I think, as I say, just another player that I looked at and thought, look at the attributes and the sort of goals that he scored, it was some of the goals he scored was crazy. I think I remember him scoring. Did he score like 5 or 6 in one game? Wigan? In the Prem is just there's not many players that do that. So yeah, Defoe gets in it just because I think he's different to a lot of the strikers that I've said, and I think he maybe doesn't get as much credit and praise that he probably deserves. If you look at his stats, he's up there with the best of them, I think.
That is, you know what? That is a big shock to the system. So it is, because I'm wondering with the list I have everyone you've said so far, but I'm wondering with you putting in Defoe, who are you leaving out of my list?
There's a big one that I'm still waiting for, but I'm
waiting for it, and I'm at Phil. Me and you're going to have an issue if this man is not in it. Like, so like I'm so confused. But Defoe is like, I rate the shout, right? I rate it. He's definitely overlooked in terms of the Premier League all great strikers, and I see where you're coming from. But I'm just shocked on who you're going to leave out of my list.
Yeah, there's one I'm
We're
waiting
going to have
for.
to wait and see. So yeah.
Okay. Next on the list, Van Persie. Okay, so Robin Van Persie, I think again, to do what he did at Arsenal, and then obviously come to a big rival and come in at United and sort of, for me in that season, basically single-handedly, won the Premier League title for United. I think doing that in itself is really difficult to do. The pressure of leaving a big club and coming into another club and to hit the ground running like he did, scoring some of the goals, the one where Rooney's played it over the top, that kind of volley, the technique is just incredible. And I think for somebody like, Van Persie, who was a natural goal scorer, I really enjoyed watching him, and some of the finishes that he used to do was crazy. So yeah, he gets in there for me as well, definitely.
Yeah, RVP 100%. Like you touched on it there, was this stint at Arsenal and then moving to United. Like, absolutely sensational. I think his probably most memorable goal is that halfway assist from Wayne Rooney. What a goal that was! No matter who you support, what a goal. I think we're getting down to the last one now, and
yeah, I
have two players here, and if I can understand an argument for leaving out one over the other, but if the one I'm gonna fight you on is left out, I'll be absolutely stunned. So I will. Keith has put in the comments here now. Suarez or Kane missing out, but there's one player that hasn't been mentioned yet. And
there's one player that I'm waiting for, which I thought would have been quite an obvious one, to be fair. But
there's one player. There's
a
player that I've put in that I think all of you guys are missing.
Well, okay, let's just let him name. Yeah, Freddie's just named it. Yeah.
Do you know what? The player that I'm gonna say, because I had, when I originally written the list, I had written 12 players. I was trying to do a bit of a short list and trying to fight an argument for some of the players. And yeah, that is the one I was going to go for with Freddie. I left Aguero till last. I think there was two other players. The other two players that I had on my list, probably one of them you wouldn't have sort of thought, and I had Jamie Vardy as one of them. I think that's just purely based on, obviously, me when I left United and sort of for a couple of seasons fell into the non-league system, and to do what he's done in terms of to make it out of non-league and to sort of do what he was doing in the Premier League and to sort of equal Ruud van Nistelrooy's record for the amount of goals scored consecutively and to win the Premier League with Leicester. I think there's not many players that are ever going to repeat that and do that again, especially coming from where he came from. So he was somebody who I wanted to get in there, but because of the other players and the quality that they had, obviously he just missed out. So yeah, it was Aguero, number 10. I think obviously for City he's been the biggest player for many a season. A lot of the title was decided with the amount of goals that he scored, and obviously the goal that he scored against Queen's Park Rangers, which we don't like to talk about as United fans, but you can't take that away from what kind of a player he was. I think consistent, excellent movement, and scored again all types of goals. So I think Aguero gets in there just ahead of Vardy, just on that basis, really. I think, but I did want to mention Vardy because I think he's done, and to be still going at the age he's at now and from where he's came from, definitely deserves a mention because I think what he's done in the game and to sort of come from where he has is astounding, really. So.
Is Bergkamp a striker?
Yeah, 100%. Vardy is definitely an honourable mention, 100%. But
Bergkamp, yeah, and honestly, Bergkamp is probably one of my favourite players of all time, and I didn't put him in just purely based on me thinking he was a number 10. I think Bergkamp would definitely be in if I was going as like a number 9 striker. But he's played off and more of a link, and obviously the silky, Bergkamp, to be honest, is. In my probably top 10 favourite players of all time in the Premier League.
Yeah,
I just
100%.
love the guy.
I had Bergkamp. Bill.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I did write it down, but then I was thinking more of a number 9 who plays that particular role more than probably he did. I think he had,
he did occasionally, didn't he? But he wasn't an out-and-out 9. I agree. Yeah. I've got him tied with Henry, actually, Bergkamp.
100%. I would never disregard Bergkamp. I think Bergkamp would definitely get in ahead of the likes of Defoe and people like that if I was just going purely based on the player. But I think because it was more of a, striker, number 9, and I was visualising players that played in that old school number 9 position, I sort of just
as a straight 9. Yeah.
100%.
Well, when we were talking earlier, I wrote a list down, and I've changed it a few times. To this, but I've got one in that you guys don't have, and that's probably because I'm an old timer. And I put in, and Phil will appreciate it because he was a finisher. I put in Ian Rush, and he was a real finisher, a proper finisher. If he got in, he scored 90 goals when he came back in 88 to 96, and he was in the latter end of his career. He still popped in 90 goals. Between 88 and 96 for Liverpool, and he was a sub. He was in my list. Aguero was in my list. Where I was struggling was Owen and Fowler, so I kind of put Owen and Fowler together as well because I think Fowler was a better finisher, but Owen was a better all-round player, and I was really struggling with Bergkamp and Henry. So I put the two. So I put them together. I put Owen and Fowler together and Bergkamp and Henry together. Because I thought that was
look, lads, we are coming up to an hour and 16 there now. Do you know what I think we might do is just leave the mystery in rating them from 1 to 10, and leave the debate open for people in the comments to elaborate on, and we might even bring it back next week to kind of see where the comment section have put their 1 to 10, or even have we left out players that we haven't thought of. I don't think we have. I think we put in the fairly obvious ones. Defoe was a mad one for me, I thought. Funny how there was no modern players in it. I thought Harry Kane would have got a shout from somewhere, but obviously not.
Evan, who is your player that you were? Was it Aguero?
Yeah, it was Aguero.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, that was my player.
I was going to fight every man, woman, and child if Aguero was.
I was waiting for him. Yeah.
For finishing, I mean, again, Ollie Solskjaer. For finishing, although he was on the bench a lot, he could finish. He was a predator in front of goal. So
but
it depends what you like really as a striker.
So his managerial ability brought it down.
He did all right. But there is no debate about number 1, and it is Big Rude. I mean, there's no debate on that.
Oh, I know. I think
Dean
there is.
Smith next stream. I will. Dean Smith next stream. I will.
Look, we're going to have to leave it to next stream, lads. There is a big debate in it, but look, thank you so much to everyone in the chat who's commented, who's watched it throughout the whole live. Thanks, big up to the panel that's come out. We're going to go through the socials. Dubes, where can we find you?
I've left my TikTok on the thing. It's Dubes25 on TikTok. Same as my Instagram, and it will be the same on my Twitter or X account, whatever you want to call it. So go follow it. My aim is to get on TikTok to get to 50k before the end of the year. I'm at 37 at the moment. Can I do it?
Nice.
Lads, everyone in the comments, let's get Dubes to 50k. William, over to you, man.
Back for me, it's pretty much. Just follow me at Willie Chili Bright. That would be pretty much all of my socials there. Simple.
Happy days. Stu, you're up next.
You can abuse me at Stu Woolley if you so wish.
Stu, you're well able for him. I have full faith in you. And Phil, finally.
Yeah, I think my TikTok's just under my name there, so it's at Marshy20. That I'll be on Twitter mostly, so that's probably the best place to find me if you want to. Yeah.
Happy days. And I have been your main host, Evan Fahy, aka the Jersey Man. You can find me on Twitter and you can find me mostly on TikTok. And doing jersey giveaways, moving into retro soccer jersey giveaways. We actually do have a TikTok page for this channel. The Weekly Armchair, lads. It's been on my story. Get over it, get liking, get following, all that kind of crack. Thank you so much for the first episode back of the 2024-25 season, and we will see you next week again for another episode of the Weekly Armchair. Best of luck.
All right.
Thank you.